Hi, my name is Barbara Allan. I am author of the book Conquering Arthritis. It's been the #1 best-selling arthritis book on Amazon.com. Today I want to talk about chapatis or flatbread that are made without any gluten. And I want to do this because for many people with arthritis, avoiding their problem foods for 6 months to a year or two is one of the key elements in getting well. And many people, not all people, but many people with arthritis do have an issue with gluten. So for some period of their life, they will need to find some other way to eat. What I'm using here is sorghum flour. It's also called jowar. If you go to an Indian grocery store, you may see the word jowar on the label. So it's a little seed that's ground up. I've got 1 cup. And then I'll just add a little bit of sea salt to taste. I don't like it real heavily salted, but a little bit of salt tastes good to me. Again, it's best to use sea salt if you have food sensitivities because table salt has dextrose, which is made from corn, and you don't want to be getting corn or any other food in your diet every day while you're healing. The people that most reliably heal from rheumatoid arthritis eat on a 4-day rotation diet, so they're not getting, they can eat as much food from one of their safe food list as they want for 24 hours, but then they need a period of 3 24 hours back to back where they totally avoid that food. So that's why no table salt. And then I'm going to add water. And we want this dough to be able to be stiff enough where we can form little balls that we can then flatten with our hand. So I don't want it too runny. So I just keep adding water until I have a good stiff dough going. This kind of flatbread is really good with a meal where you might normally have a slice of bread or a dinner roll. You can have this instead. It's a little bit crumbly because there's no gluten in it to have it as a sandwich bread, but if you wanted to have it with something like cheese and a little bit of lunch meat, you might be able to eat it European style where you have a fork and a knife and you just eat piece by piece as you cut it with your fork. That could be very nice as a bread substitute as well. Part of what I like about this is it's so quick. You don't have to, like some of the other gluten-free recipes I've showed you, it's best if you think ahead and let the batter sit for a few hours or overnight. This one, there's no reason to do that. So now we have a nice stiff batter, and I'm going to move over to the frying pan and show you how to actually cook it. So now what I'm going to be doing is putting a little bit of oil in a pan, and I've got several oils here that I can choose from. What's important when you're healing arthritis is knowing what all your food sensitivities are and then avoiding them. So if sunflower seeds are fine, then you can use sunflower oil. If corn is not a problem, corn's a problem for many people, but not everyone. If corn's not a problem, you can use just a little bit of corn oil as your cooking oil. If soy is not a problem for you, you could use a little bit of vegetable oil. That's usually what it says on the label when it's soy oil. Soy is a problem for many people, but not everyone. So if it's not a problem for you, you could use that. You could also use grapeseed oil, and that's a very healthy oil. Most people can tolerate it, but some people can't, so only use it if it works for you. Peanut oil is another oil that works for some people and not for others. So if it works for you, great. And olive oil is extremely healthy and probably the best oil to use if you can tolerate it because it's very high in omega-9s, which are a healthy neutral oil. It's heart healthy and doesn't contribute to inflammation. So that's what I'll be using here today in the pan. Now it's really important if you have an autoimmune disease to know what foods will set you off and which ones are safe. I'm using olive oil today, but there are many, many different oils you could use, and I showed you those before. If you actually want to get tested for 200 foods and many food additives and chemicals, you can look at the link below this video under the Show More button, and I'll take you to a test and I'll explain how it works. That it's a blood test that would allow you to know all these things. So today I'm using just a little bit of olive oil in the bottom of the pan. And I put this on a low-medium heat at the beginning of shooting this video so that the pan would already be hot. So it works best if you preheat the pan. And then the dough needs to be firm enough where you can shape it into a ball and then flatten it. And then just drop it into the pan. Traditionally, this Indian flatbread is called chapatis, and it's very good with curries and vegetable dishes. Just kind of served on the side the way Americans might serve a dinner roll. Because they're a little bit soft without any gluten in them, it's good to make sure that they cook thoroughly enough on one side where they've got a little bit of kind of cooked texture to hold them together, so don't flip them too soon. If you want a little bit more of a fried ground edge, you can put a little more oil in. If you're trying to keep the oil down in your diet, these are cooking just fine. There's enough oil in the pan to keep them sticking, but it's not giving it the real brown, beautiful color. So if you need more calories in your diet, you can use a little more oil. If that's not an issue, then it's probably healthier to cook them in a minimal of oil like this. You can see now how these are fairly stiff. They're a little bit too hot to eat, so I'm gonna wait a minute before I sample it and describe what it tastes like. But they're pretty robust and bread-like now. They're much more tender than that would make it look like. So now I'm going to sample these now that they've cooled a bit. I find these really, really good. They're tender, and although they're not fluffy like Wonder Bread, they're probably, of all the gluten-free flours that I've cooked with, the one that reminds me the most of bread that's been made with yeast. So regular bread that's risen and puffed up. It's kind of got a light texture to it. It's got a little bit of its own flavor, but it's very mild. So somebody that really is looking for something that tastes like the bread, you know, just plain old bread that they're missing, this might really be the thing that would help you feel not deprived, feel like you're really getting something good, even though you can't have gluten right now. Part of what's really important if you're on a gluten-free diet, and many people don't realize this, is eating foods on rotation, so not having the same food day after day. So by providing many different recipes that are gluten-free, that allows you to have at least 4 different days of a bread substitute, so that you don't start out with something like the sorghum flour being safe, but then because you're eating it every day, your body develops a reaction to it. That sort of delayed food sensitivity that can develop over time when you overeat a food is one of the major causes behind something like rheumatoid arthritis or another autoimmune disease. And one of the best things you can do is just get into the habit of rotating your foods so that you don't develop new problem foods. A lot of times when people feel better on a new diet when they have rheumatoid arthritis, it will only last for a month or 2 or 3. And it's because the new foods that they're eating all started out safe, but then because they were having them instead of just one day and 4, they were having them many, many times a week. The foods didn't stay safe, and these formerly safe foods then become a problem. So what we want to do is have you avoid all your problem foods for long enough that your gut heals, and most of those you redevelop all oral tolerance, and then we want you to be able to rotate your safe foods so that they always become safe and you can eat a more normal diet.